then how I would eat so much cleaning up. Anyway, so just remember that enough is as good as a feast. And, go in. One of the things I would really recommend, uh, I have done here, that if any of you are on medication, don't forget to take it. Take your meds before when you go in, before you go into that house. Everybody needs to take their meds. That's the first thing. And then go in with that attitude of gratitude that we just read in our morning meditation, one of them, the Jesus calling, and it said thankfulness takes the sting out of adversity. Thankfulness takes the sting out of adversity. When you're in the midst of, well, I'll just say this. We used to, years ago, run around with 5 different couples. And we would go camping or we would have holidays together. And I never knew, particularly fixing breakfast on a campsite with 5 other women or 4 other women, I never knew that there were so many different ways to fry bacon, and everybody would have their way, and it wouldn't be right, it'd be too crisp, wouldn't be cooked enough. And so when you go home tomorrow, if there are, a bunch of you and you're all helping cook, whoever makes the best gravy, let them make it and don't complain about it, Don't let there be too many, fingers in the pot or whatever. But go in with just thankfulness. Last year I look back and it was a hard year. I mean, it was a hard Thanksgiving, hard holidays. A lot of people did not get to be with family. And I've been reading about what has happened to people in general since the pandemic. And a lot of people, people that have never had a weight problem before, a lot of them have gained weight. So don't be surprised if you see some of your loved ones that have filled out a little bit. I was traveling the other day and I saw a woman that I've known for years. I've known her for years. And I've known her as a tall, thin, beautiful blonde. And I saw this woman and I didn't know who she was. She spoke to me and I did not know who she was, which is not unusual. I see people and then I remember who they are if they walk by. But anyway, my daughter later told me who she was. And I was shocked because the woman probably has gained 75 pounds since I saw her. And she did make the remark, she never mentioned her weight gain, but she did make the remark that she had been working at home. And so when you go into Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, everyone may have had a change, a shift, because, we think everyone is just going to be so happy to get back together. But we've spent almost 2 years of going through some hard times, and people that I've talked to and I've read other therapists talk about people are having more emotional problems than they've had for a long time. So go in and be the change you want them to do, be what you want them to be, act the way you want them to act, and go in with an attitude of gratitude. And it's, it's easy to say that, to just be thankful, thankful, thankful. One of the things I was taught many years ago by an old timer, he's down in Florida, he's no longer with us, he passed away with 50 years of sobriety, but I heard him talk at a meeting one day, and he said that the difference between being thankful for something, someone does something nice for you and you say thanks, thank you, and that's the end of it. But when you're grateful, when you're really grateful for something, give it away. Gratitude, you pass it on to someone else and someone else and someone else. So go in your home, whether you're inviting guests into your home or you're going to someone else's home, go in with an attitude of gratitude. And, you know, I know most of you on here, and most of you have done inner child work. And be sure and don't take the kid in to be there. You know, grow yourself up. Take the adult part. Because when we get around people and that we have, you know, have known us all of our lives, we all have emotional buttons. And when we get around people, you know, mothers, dads, people that know us, and they can say the least little thing, and it will push our buttons. They know where they are because they install them. So you keep your buttons covered up, your emotional buttons. Be on guard. Be on guard. You know, you don't have to go in and just be all freaked out, but just be aware of when something is said. And don't take it in as personal. You know, in most cases, you may be the only recovering person in your family, but I'm seeing some people on here that their whole families are in recovery. That's the good news. That is the good news. But if you're the only one that's in recovery, go in and make recovery look good. If they know that you've been in treatment, or they know that you're on a recovery 12-step path, make recovery look good. You know, if you're, so I'll just stop with that, is, you know, go home and don't talk about your recovery, particularly if you're new in recovery. They don't want to hear it unless they are on the journey with you. They do not want to hear about the 12 steps or the big book or anything that you're doing. They really don't. And what they're watching is, particularly if they've helped you pay for treatment, you know, they want you to recover, and they'll sort of have you under a microscope watching you and saying, well, see, she didn't learn too much out there at that Shades of Hope. Look at, she's reaching for that second piece of pie or whatever, you know. And so that brings me up to, you know, don't talk about your recovery. Go home and live your recovery in front of it. Go home and keep your acceptance level higher than your expectations level. When you go home with expectations that, you know, that are really high, the only place they can go is down. I know after my folks passed away, my sister and her family came here. I was sort of the matriarch of the family. We had a big old house in town, and we entertained a lot. Our house was always full of people. I liked it like that because then RL and I didn't fuss as much. Anyway, that's a whole other story back a long time ago. But anyway, I'd have my family, my sister and her family for Thanksgiving. And my sister was pretty dramatic, but she'd call me and she'd say, oh, I can hardly wait to come see my little baby sister and my little nephew and all my little nieces. And she would get home, get back to my, you know, she'd get to my house, and she was a banker, and she'd come dressed in her business clothes, and she, you know, was real thin and white complected and blondish red hair and blue eyes. And that was always what I wanted to be when I grew up, you know. And she'd come to my house, and I'd be, you know, 260, 70, 80 pounds with those old dresses, big dresses on. But anyway, she'd come in looking good, and she would be so nice and so loving, and, you know, all of this and all of that and something else, until the next morning. Like, she went to bed at night and came up a different person. And today we would probably diagnose her bipolar, but you never knew what you had with her. You never knew, and everything would be great, and then it wouldn't. And so I finally, years into recovery, finally got, well, it was after I came home from treatment. After I came home from treatment, October the 19th of 1985, 36 years ago, that was my biggest fear, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving? Because I had been the matriarch and done all the big stuff. And so I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I could not have them all at my home. And so my oldest daughter lived in Lubbock, and she said, Mom, why don't you and Dad and Kim and Christy come up here? And so that's what we did. And I was afraid to even eat the food that they had. I took my own little bits of food. And she was, at that time, was married in a big family of farmers, and those farm wives cooked good. And there was a spread of food like that out there that you wouldn't believe. And keep in mind, there was no OA in Abilene when I came back. Zero. I had started going to Fort Worth to meetings on Saturday morning, but there was no one. And but Wanda, that, thank God for Wanda, had been in OA with me before. And so when we sat down to eat, her relatives got to talking about my little bitty pieces of food. I'd made me some little abstinent dressing and all, and they got to talking about it, and in essence kind of made fun of it. And I was fresh out of treatment, and so I got up and, excused myself to go to the bathroom, but I went into my daughter's bedroom and called Wanda, and she walked me through that. And that was really the beginning of OA, to establish an OA back in Abilene, Texas. So I called Wanda, and she walked me through that. So anyway, go in with an attitude of acceptance. Keep your acceptance level higher than your expectations. And the third thing is sharpen your toolkit before you go. That's tomorrow. Today you're on Zoom. You might pick you up a meeting tonight, or late this afternoon or early in the morning. There's great AA meetings, OA meetings. So get your meeting in, and then call your sponsor. And particularly if you're new in recovery, call your sponsor and go over the menu and what you're going to eat tomorrow. If you're going to someone else's house, you might check and see what they're having, and to make sure, and don't make a big deal out of it. That hostess has enough on her plate anyway to worry about, but you might just check. And if you need to take some things that would be more on your food plan, take enough for everyone, because I don't care what you take, how abstinent it is, how bad it looks, or how bad it tastes. I mean, it doesn't have to taste bad. They will want some of it, so don't take just a little bitty container, because they'll look over there, well, what are you eating? Well, if you need to take something to know that you're taking something abstinence, regardless of what they have, take enough for everybody to, and share it. So call your sponsor, go to a meeting, and if you're newly sober at Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're going into a home where alcohol is served, I'm telling you, you may not want to go this year. If you're newly sober, there's families that wine and that alcohol flows freely, and it is commonplace. It'll be everywhere. And I would recommend that you either take a sober buddy with you, a sponsor with you, someone with you, or your spouse if you have to go. But, if you can't go into that where alcohol is served, you best stay at home. And I will tell you, at one point in your sobriety, that mental obsession to drink will be removed, and you'll be able to go anywhere. You'll be able to go where they're serving drinks. You might not want to hang out, at bars probably, but there will be a neutrality. You will be able to, the drink, the food, the alcohol will have taken its proper place. But right at first, be on your guard and have an exit plan. If you do go, and later on in the day, as they start watching football, and if they start drinking a little more and a little more, and they said, come on, one drink won't hurt you, and it might be your dad saying that, or your mom, or your brothers, or, come on. Come on, you've always drank with us. What's wrong with you? Come on, one won't hurt. Have you an exit plan? Get, when the going gets rough, get going. Because your sobriety, your abstinence, your recovery has absolutely got to come first, or it will every bit can go out the window. So, and then talking about, you're going to be a guest, be a gracious guest. If you're going to your parents, don't go in as a messy teenager, that you were when you lived there. Be respectful. Be respectful of their things. Ask if you can be helpful. Ask if you can help clean up or do the dishes or whatever. Go in and be a gracious guest. Because, and don't be demanding. Don't be demanding. Don't be that you have to be center stage of everything. And treat your family with love, dignity, and respect. Treat your family members like you would treat a brand new newcomer into the program. How would you treat a brand new newcomer into the program? You would treat them with love, dignity, and respect. Do that for your loved ones, whether you get it back or not. Now, I'm going to keep telling you, your family might have been gracious forever. I don't know. Most most addicts who come out of alcoholic families, that there is some dysfunction there. Whether there's alcoholism or eating disorders or whatever, I would say you're probably not the only one. And so go in with some graciousness and, and like, thank them for what they are doing. Because if you have never, particularly if you're young, let me see, if we have any young people on here, nope, y'all are all old. No, but particularly for young people, don't go home now. This is the exception of my grandson, Spencer. He got home from college last night, hooray, and we all went up to see him and patted and loved on him and kissed him. I mean, we just kissed him raw. We just, all of us just, but with permission. We didn't do it without, asking permission, and I think he was as glad to see us as we were to see him. But, he will be waited on hand and foot. And he was last night, and he will be all weekend. And if you've got a college student like that, or, a young person that has been away from college, just smother them with love. Don't pay any attention to what I'm saying. Just love them. But if you're on the other end and you're going into your family, be respectful. Don't be demanding. Thank them. Go up and put your arm around your mom and thank her for preparing the meal, or whoever prepared the meal. Because if you've never prepared a big Thanksgiving meal, it is hard work. I'm here to tell you. So thank them. Be gracious. And if you're early in recovery from your eating disorder, please don't be the hostess this year. If you've already got that planned, you surround yourself with some help, but I would recommend that you sit back and let someone else do it this year. And if no one wants to, order out. That'd be all right too. And I will tell you, and I don't know anything. Don't have stock in it, but if all else fails, call Cracker Barrel. They've got good turkey dressing. But if you're the only one that can cook, don't do it. If you're early in recovery and from your eating disorder. Okay, and so avoid talking about hot topics, politics, particularly if you're on opposite sides. Now, if you're all on the same side, get with it. Just go ahead and badger that other side all you want to. But if you're on opposite sides, please keep your opinions to yourself. Talk about football. Now, I mean, people can get as heated over favorite football teams as they can politics. So you know your family and you know what you can talk about and what not, what are the hot buttons. But, don't try to settle any of those family arguments or those family details that have been going on forever. Don't try to settle them over Thanksgiving. Don't bring them up, please, if you want to have some peace and serenity. And then number 6, do some fun things. Plan some fun things yourself. If you're going in somewhere, you might want to have a game prepared that if they want to play a game, but you take something or some ideas in, because when you can laugh with your family, everything changes. Everything changes. And I've mentioned this before, but the day that the day of my husband's funeral, we came home and some of his children were here and some of his grandchildren and a man from a previous marriage and, our beloved friend Ashley was here and it had been a hard day. It had been a hard 2 weeks sitting and watching my husband pass away and then the funeral and, you're just tired. You're just tired. And so what Ashley did, she said, y'all all go change your clothes, put on some play clothes. And so we did. And what Ashley did is she divided us up into teams. And what she did is she had a playlist. This is called running charades. Have any of y'all ever played running charades? If you want to have laughter in your home, regardless of the age, running charades is you divide, and you can have 6 people, 3 on each team. You don't have to have a great big crowd, but if you do, divide the crowd up, put one in one part of the house and the other group in the other part of the house, and then in the center is a person that has a playlist, and on that list will be songs or movies or books. Now, something that most people will recognize, maybe 20 of them. And then you start out, those people separated and they pick out a leader and the leader will come and whoever's holding, I'm always the designated, I have the list. So they come to me and I give them, whisper in their ears what they are to go back and do. So they go back into their bunch and they act out the song or whatever. And then whoever gets that runs in here and gets the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and the race is on. And they laugh and they run and they push each other and they, cheat a little bit. But I mean, if you want to have a fun time with family, and the kids get so involved in it, and what is really fun is when you have an actress visiting you and they play charades, Anyway, it was quite a game. And so that doesn't require anything but a playlist. And so that would be something good to play. And just think of something. By all means, think of something that you can do that is fun. My bunch likes to play 42, and they've got these heated 42 tournaments going. And they're already revving up. They talked about it last night. They didn't think their brother was going to be here. Now their brother's coming in. I think he's coming in not for the meal. He'll enjoy the meal. He's coming in for that 42 tournament because he lost at the last one, and he's coming home with his dukes up. He wants to beat Spencer, and nobody beats Spencer in 42. But anyway, so that's fun, and they get serious, but they laugh, and they just have fun with that. And then, another thing you do is get outside and take a walk. It'll be pretty tomorrow here, but even if it's chilly, bundle up, go for a walk. Take the kids out, let them get some of that energy out. Go for a walk. I know a lot of people will play touch football or, they'll do something. I've mentioned this before, but my daughter-in-law is... I always say she's my favorite daughter-in-law. I have lots of favorite daughter-in-laws, but anyway, she's no longer married to my son, but she's still a dear friend. But every Thanksgiving and Christmas when they would come, she called the McCartys hound dogs. She said, y'all are going to go hound dog. But what, a lot of times after we eat, a lot of times the McCartys will take little short naps. And Susan said we were hound dogging, just, like a hound dog, just eating and then take a nap. But anyway, that'd be all right too. If you want to take a little snooze, rest, take a nap, or go for a walk, or go for a ride, pile everybody up in the car and go for a ride. I am amazed. We've traveled from Alexandria, Louisiana. We were over there over the weekend and came back Monday and got home kind of late Monday night. But we saw Christmas lights out everywhere, like they were already, like it's already Christmas. So you can already go out and see the Christmas lights. Take a ride out, and then if you're a singing family, and there's some singers on here, get around the piano. Retha, lead them in music. EJ, all of you singers, do some music rounds. I mean, kids love to sing, and that will bring up those spirits quicker than anything. Okay, and so we think about traditions. Kids love traditions. What are your traditions? For the longest, my oldest daughter, Karen, is really good at art. And so when the grandkids were all little, she'd bring the supplies and she would set up tables and to keep the little ones busy, because we had a lot of little ones at the same time. And she would have them to make placemats, and she'd bring all the stuff, all the felt stuff and all, and they made placemats for the whole family, and they were the cutest things. And so that became a tradition until they got too old to make the placemats. Once they get old, they don't want to do that. But one of the things, and I've mentioned this before, that we do, and I'm sure we'll do it again this year, is when the Pilgrims, this was a story that I read, when the Pilgrims had their first Thanksgiving, the Indians had given some kernels of corn, and each one had 5 kernels of corn to plant. That was it, 5 kernels of corn. So what I do is I get these little cups, and by each one's plate, I place 5, it's popcorn, kernels of corn by everyone's plate. And then as we eat the meal, we casually go around and each one will pick up a kernel of that corn and they just say something they're grateful for. And then they put it in their cup. Go to the next one, pick up a kernel of corn. What are you grateful for? Put it in the cup. And we've done that for quite a few years. And when Spencer was 12, is when his grandfather passed away. And that first Thanksgiving, we just could not be here. We could not be here. And so my son has a suite at the Dallas Cowboy deal, and so he invited us all up there for Thanksgiving. And by the way, if you want some good Thanksgiving food, you go to that. Anyway, off the subject. But anyway, Spencer didn't want to go. I mean, he wanted to go, but he didn't want to go. But what about the kernels of corn? And so, because Minnie, that's what we do every year. So it's portable. I took it with us, and we did it for breakfast in the hotel before we went over to the ball game. So start a tradition. Kids love traditions, and once you start them, they want you to do them every year. What it is, it's grounding for kids. They feel like more connected to the family, and then they'll pass that on to their kids. And I've changed through the years. One of the things that I used to do every Thanksgiving, I would have a Christmas decoration by each one's plate. Or I would have, I did that for years until some of them don't put up trees anymore. Anyway, I just that served its purpose for many years. And then for many years, I gave everyone a pair of Christmas pajamas on Thanksgiving. Last year, I gave them the silliest t-shirts. Anyway, so just start traditions that can be fun and that kids like, and that they'll, perhaps can carry on into their own family. So one thing to take home, 2 things, the most important things, 3 things to take home is, first of all, have your self-esteem intact. And that's going to come from your God esteem. Be prayed up. Pray for yourself, pray for your absence, pray for your family, and ask God to, to help you be the change. If there needs to be any change made in your family, you be the change. You show the change inside. So go with some healthy self-esteem on board. And then another thing is go with intact boundaries. Intact boundaries. Don't go in there with a sensitive little heart of a child, and when someone says something to you that it hurts your feelings. Get past yourself, grow yourself up, and go in as an adult and set a boundary. And when your mother says something about, do you really like your hair like that? Or if your dad says, have you gained a little weight? You just put a smile on your face and just say, well, thanks for sharing, or thank you, or whatever. And on the, set a boundary. Set a boundary. And don't let your little kid on the inside get their sensitive little feelings hurt, and protect that inner child. And I'm really serious about this. I'm kind of making a little joke out of it, but really, particularly if you came from a lot of dysfunction, is a kid, being the only one, and I'm telling you, the only grandchild on both sides, the only anyone in both families that was overweight, and I was drastically overweight all of my life. And uncles saying such horrible things to me, or, they would, say things. If they were passing food, they would say, oh, Tenny doesn't need that, and pass it on to someone else, and I'd be a little kid. Don't do kids like that. Don't tease children about anything. A form of teasing is a form of abuse. It is abusive. Do not abuse children by teasing them about anything, particularly if they're overweight or underweight. Don't talk about their bodies, and don't talk about yours, because, and I will say, particularly if you have just, probably in recovery for a year or so and have been at shades. If your family members have any weight problems themselves, they're going to be watching you, and they're going to want to know, well, do you eat like that all the time? Well, why do you have to do that? They'll ask you questions, or they'll want to know the food plan. They'll want you to write it down. Don't get caught in that trap. Don't do that. Please don't do that, because this is not a diet. A diet is something you go on to go off. This is a way to live. And just, if they ask you, just say, well, you might call out at Shades and ask them, but, just don't get into talk. Don't give your recovery away is what I'm trying to say. Be your recovery. And I've said that, 2 or 3 times. And then just be grateful that you have a place to go. There's so many people that don't have a place to go this Thanksgiving or any Thanksgiving. And, you might invite somebody. You might invite someone. When my husband and all the kids were at home and we were really big in AA and Al-Anon, we invited people, anyone that didn't have a place to go Thanksgiving, they were invited to the McCartys. And I miss those times. I miss them. But we do have lots of fun, and anyone's invited to come to our house. Actually, really they are. Another thing I want to tell you, that if you want to really have some fun, put out with your kids, your grown adult kids, put out old picture albums. My kids love to look at the picture albums, and then they'll start telling stories about, and things that, I'll hear things I didn't even know that I knew. So I'm sure that y'all have some things that you could share about going home, or maybe some questions, but some tools that you're going to be taking. But I want to stress, if you have an eating disorder, or if you're an alcoholic, if you have any substance, you don't get days off. You don't get days off. You don't get a holiday off. Feed yourself appropriately. And on most dinner tables of a Thanksgiving feast, you're going to be able to find something that you can eat. you know, the green beans, turkey. I mean, there'll be things. And if not, I mean, a salad. If not, take your own. But like I said, if you take your own, take enough for everybody else, because invariably they'll want some of what you have. And so, but go in with an attitude of gratitude. Just be gracious, be gracious. And if you can't be, you know, walk outside and blah, 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 say what you want to say, or call your sponsor, but treat your loved ones with love, dignity, and respect. Treat them like you'd want to be treated. And then don't show off your recovery. They're not interested in it. They want to see recovery in action. They'll be watching you too. They'll be watching you. So that's what I have. And what do you have? Let's all share. Who wants to share first? Some of you, this will be your first Thanksgiving in recovery. Hello?